On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are discussing Strange New Worlds 106, The Cloud Minders. Wait, no, Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach, right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen to two lifelong friends talk about Star Trek. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
David.
Yes.
We got a new episode of Strange New Worlds. We're very late in the week talking about it. I had a crazy schedule this week, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're finally getting to it before the next one's out because it's almost here.
Mm-hmm.
But what'd you think?
You know how like people who are defending television or films will say like it's not the movie's fault, you didn't understand it. You know that? You know how people say that?
Right.
And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But I'll admit some fault on this one. But, you know, I was having like a real tough time, you know?
Well, what didn't you understand? Like, what didn't track for you?
I don't know, man. There was like a couple of
It just seemed like really a simple one to me.
It came together
right
for me. But there was like a couple of acts there where I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe it was because there were a lot of new things to take in. You know, there was like Magellan, there was Gamal, there was the First Servant, there was Allura, there was I can't even remember the name of the other colony that was like an enemy colony, but it like turned out that's a lie. Mm-hmm. And it just took a minute, and I felt better because my wife, who's much smarter than me, paused it and said, "Is the First Servant the little boy?" And I was like, "I think so."
Oh, gotcha.
It was just like there was a lot.
Right. I think you guys must have just missed that because that was pretty clearly stated at the very beginning, and they kept calling him the First Servant because they were like, "I am here to make sure the First Servant makes it to his ascension." They kept calling it, you know.
Right. And you know, sometimes it's a thing where it's like I didn't, you know, maybe I wasn't fully as invested as I thought I was. You know, maybe I was preoccupied with food. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what was wrong.
Well, your confusion aside, I thought this was a really simple plot. And I don't say that because I don't say that in response to your confusion. That's what I was going to say, was that it was kind of like, that's my initial thought of this, is it's a very like streamlined plot for A Strange New Worlds. There's not a lot of other characters involved. There's the Uhura stuff, but it all feeds right into this main plot. And it's basically just little boy. They want him to ascend. Right. The dad wants to escape with him for some reason, and then we find out the reason at the end, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. And well, the other thing was, though, I feel like they were pretty unclear about what was going on because they were trying to not unveil that horrible big reveal at the end. Because they were acting like, oh, he was just going to be like, he was going to be this like great leader. Because there was several things, and maybe it was partially.
They were saying that to the Federation folks, but they were lying on purpose, and that's why at the end they bring Pike down there, and they start to not let him see what happens, and then she says, "No, he can see." So I think like that's just something they don't tell outsiders,
right? And for good reason. I wound up like loving the ending.
Me too.
And I mean, and we stopped. The show was over, and Bethany looks at me and goes, "How's that for steaks?" But you know, I think I got in my own head a little bit because there were several things that were going on in the episode that made it was like I felt like they were red herrings. Like they threw it in there to like trick me.
Okay.
You know, like at the beginning there was. And at the end of the day, like I kind of like being confused on stuff like this because it lets me work it out and then be like, oh shit, that wasn't what was happening at all. So there's part of me that was where there was a whole bit where there was like what was his name? Gamal was like, I was a doctor until I became the father of a servant, and now I'm just his doctor. So it seemed like he was pissed, like he was like mad and thought like if I could take my kid, I could become a doctor again. So there was that.
Interesting.
I got that feeling. The little boy overhearing the bit with Mbenga made me think like he's going to make it into law that like outsiders can have this chip, and that's how Mbenga is going to save his daughter. Nope, that's not what they did. Mm-mm. It was just like they kept doing these little things that made me think, oh wait, that's not what they're doing.
Interesting. That's a great experience. I think that's wonderful. I think I like really the twist ending I saw coming from a mile. I don't know why, especially once the father tries to escape with the boy. I was like, well, clearly the ascension is not a good thing. And like there seemed to me when they talk about a child ascending, I'm immediately skeptical of those people.
Right.
Sounded like cult-like behavior from the first scene. I was like, oh, the ascension is not going to be good.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be killing him. I thought that was all it was. But then at the end, it was like, what? And I think they say something like, is he conscious or something? Like, he's like, yes, he absolutely is. I was like, oh, damn, that is dark.
Is he suffering? Will he suffer? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that is terrible. Super dark. So yeah, I think they like set out to like trick me.
Interesting.
And people like me. Like, they're like, we're going to throw in the red herrings to make it seem like, oh, this is how they'll solve the episode, like we have legitimately done in all the other episodes. And they're like, we're gonna get those cynical bastards, and they did. They got me.
Yeah, that's great.
Because I was just like, oh, the little boy's gonna make it law.
Right. No, see, I expected the twist, but I didn't necessarily expect them to lose. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something I've been saying for the last couple of years about the Orville that I really love is they just don't always win. And for especially for the comedy version of like Star Trek parody, like you expect them to be even lighter, and sometimes they just lose, you know? And it's like, dang, it hurts, and you feel the stakes, you know? And yeah, like this one was one of those episodes, and I was really happy to see it. And I was also just like, we were talking about last week, like memorable things from these episodes. What will we remember? You know, what will feel indelible in that kid sitting in that thing, like, sitting down so brave, and then as they came into his face, like these little like probes start to head toward his face, he just starts to cry and then goes completely cold, and like oh, it's terrifying. And then talking about how he's suffering. Damn.
And to me, like the really disgusting bit that's gonna stick with me is when they wheel that other first servant out and he sees the dead body and goes, oh my God. Yeah, like the kid realizes what he has to do. Yeah, like that terrifying. Was rough, dude. That was disgusting. And so I wound up really enjoying the episode for the most part. Like I was confused. I'll admit it. I'm not. Oh yeah, I'm not a bright man.
No shame at being confused. I honestly envy your experience because that's a fun way to experience any of these shows.
The smartest I've ever been was using the word dullard to describe myself. So, but no, I was just trying to second guess the episode so much. I was just like, oh, the dad's in it. He's in on it with these other cats, and they're gonna like, or like maybe he thinks if he could take out his son, he can be a doctor on that world, and or prospectus, I think is what it was called. And I just kept like coming up with all these different little theories that like were just like, no, this is just like a really simple dark thing. Yeah. Now, where the show really falters for me is I am like, okay, you guys found, you know, Allura says, or Laura, whatever her name is, said we've tried for hundreds of years to figure out a better way to do this. I'm like, just go to another planet. Like, our shit will fall out of the sky into the lava. Cool, go to another planet. Of course, here's the good thing about COVID. The great thing about COVID is it really extended my suspension of disbelief
of how a society would react to a terrifying situation.
Because I'm just like, you know, just wear a mask and get vaccinated. No! We like our cloud city.
No, absolutely. And I mean, they seem like they live on a paradise, you know? Yeah. And so that's the thing of this episode. And honestly, it's kind of the heart of it, especially with the Pike question of him needing somewhere that can heal his body after the accident. And this is absolutely an option that can, if he wants to come there, he can be there and solve his problem, his terrible problem that can't be solved, can be solved through this place. And he is, you know, no, he's like, no, I don't. I would never accept this. But then she has this scathing question. I love that she kind of gets the last word. And she does. She says, like, can you guarantee me, can you tell me there's no child suffering so that the Federation can exist? And he can't do that. Like, we've seen it in other Treks now. Like, The Federation is expansive, and certain corners of it, get stepped on. Not to say like the Federation has gone to war. The Federation has, had outposts destroyed for their ideals. Like kids have died and suffered for this.
Yeah.
And she says like the only difference between us is we look right at the child and we say we thank them for their sacrifice. It's like that's not a bad argument. Like I wouldn't want to live on this world either. I would want to find another way, but like, and what I like is that other world, the prospectus, whatever. Like you can sort of think about it and sort of headcanon the fact that like there are people who leave, they're their enemies because these are people who wouldn't live this way, and they've gone to another world. And the dad says at the end, he's like, I'm gonna save the next one. I'm gonna be there to save the next one. And it's great, man.
I'll tell you another thing, because she had said that bit about how you had to live on Magellan or whatever to get the treatment. I was like, oh my God, that's what happens to Mbenga's daughter. Like she has to go away and live on that planet without him. That's so tragic. Like, dude, like I was like wrapped up in a lot of different shit. like they were throwing stuff at me that I was like, oh, that's what's going to happen.
You were just jumping on everything. No, it's just very simple plot. And I thought it was cool, man.
But like, a couple of minutes after like they were talking about like how he could go back there. And I was like, well, we know that's not what he does. Oh, some shit's gonna go wrong. This is bad. Like, this kid is not, like, that's what it zeroed in for me. That was like, oh, this kid is screwed.
Gotcha. Yeah. From it's so funny because, like, from the beginning when they said this child will ascend, I was like, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
And then as soon as, when his dad tries to rescue him, I was like, well, his dad is, and then I love the moment with his dad. His dad's just like, I broke every oath I've made. I broke my core beliefs because like he is a believer in the system, but then his child, when it's his child's turn to suffer, he can't take it. And he's broken his every belief to make this happen.
I maintain they actively tried to make us think that he was pissed off at this kid for taking away his life as a doctor.
I didn't get that at all, dude. I know the line you're talking about, but I just took it as like this child is incredibly important to their civilization. Like that's the only reason I took it.
Pissed.
He didn't seem pissed to me at all.
He seemed like a dick. Like half the episode.
He seemed I totally disagree. He seemed totally resigned when he said it. Like, no, this is my only patient because this is it seemed like totally like this is the oath I took. This is the only thing I care about is this child. And then he genuinely cared about Mbenga and his patient, but he was just like, he even says like halfway through, he's like, even before all this is solved, or all this is over, he says like, maybe one day, to me, he seemed like a hopeful dude. Like, I don't know why you thought he was angry.
like later on, he seemed more hopeful, but like at the beginning, it seemed like he was a dick.
I didn't get that.
When he was just like taking the thing, he's like, no, I'm going to scan the thing.
I just thought he seemed like someone with much better medical technology, like looking down on them a little bit, maybe. But I didn't think he seemed angry. I thought he seemed like, no, watch out, you're child's play compared to what I can do. I know what I'm doing here. Right.
Yeah, it's funny how we got two different things.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, maybe it's I don't know. Neither one of us want kids though, right? So I mean,
no, not particularly.
Maybe it's just like kids. It took away my life.
It's so funny. Between us talking that way and then Ashley Coffin, who also does not have any desire for kids, it's funny to like how many of the podcasters on the network are like, children. It's like we've assuaged the world of like giving birth to children to this world. Like to have our progeny is our podcasts.
You know what it is? People will tell us you never grew up. You're a man child, or whatever.
They do every day.
Yeah. So I think it's like, I'm like standing here like, you know how like a kid will be on the playground and another kid comes up and you're like, it's my toy.
You want to do that without the physical the visual comedy that made you hit your microphone?
I know. Shut up, man.
No, it's fine. You were doing it for me, but I was like,
I was doing it for you.
For the audience. That'll just be you hitting the microphone.
Audience.
You're right. We'll leave it in.
Sorry, 3 of you.
Sorry, all 3 of you. Oh, man.
Sorry, Mom. I'm just kidding. My mom doesn't listen.
As we've said in other weeks, I've really enjoyed the world building of Strange New Worlds, and I've enjoyed the character building is, I guess, more what I mean. I like all the characters a lot. This was the first episode that felt like a contained Star Trek story. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. I really like what they did in this episode. All the other episodes, to me, have kind of felt like they were only character building, and I didn't feel like the story itself had a lot of meat to it. As I said, I don't feel like they're indelible episodes that I'll think of and remember. Maybe the Gorn episode, but that's just more of like a tactical battle episode than anything. This one was like one with a moral question and like a real struggle for the captain, and like I liked it a lot.
That's one of the things that I really liked about this episode. But that's one of the things I like about Star Trek is that they can do all these different kinds of episodes.
Oh, and absolutely.
They can all be kind of somewhat memorable. I think the Gorn episode will be memorable for me. I think, though, what I loved most about this episode is that, you know, Pike was in the same boat as me in a lot of ways, because he was like, yeah, dude, let's stop these guys from trying to kidnap this kid. And then like they were the saviors. They were the people trying to save the kid. Yeah. And he just delivered the kid right back into the hands of the people who were killing him. Yeah. And like, yeah, they won, but it wasn't a win. It was a big fail. And I enjoyed that part of it, and how, you know, also loved, you know, how annoyed he was that he couldn't keep having sex, you know?
What do you mean?
Because they were like, well, we need you back here. And then he's on the bridge and he's like, all right, tell me what was so important that I had to like be on the bridge to see it.
I thought you meant
he was like in bed with her and they called him. No. Like, damn it.
I got you. I thought you meant I was thinking about like
after the kid
thing, and then there's that moment he's sitting on the bridge. He's sitting on in his like captain's quarters, staring out the window with like a glass of scotch or something. Like he's like got the one leg up, and it's just like that pensive pose. And I was thinking, oh man, he's thinking about that poor kid and his suffering. And I thought that you were thinking, man, he's really sad he can't fuck anymore.
Well, yeah, there's that too. He's like, I've got 10 years. I don't have that much time. I'm going to become a melted husk. He hasn't seen the part where he gets to have sex with Vina in the Telosian cage for the rest of his life.
Nope, he doesn't see that part.
And he's in his brain in that, so he could do all kinds of crazy shit, knowing that he's... It's just in his mind, you know?
True.
It's like, that's some acrobatic gymnastic shit, you know? But he doesn't know that yet. So all he knows is he's going to be like this, you know, wilted husk of a fella. And his peeps is going to be on the fritz, as they say.
That's all they say.
That's what they say. I enjoyed La'an and Uhura's bits.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
With the whole like training to be a security officer and
and I know they've been doing this every episode, but like Uhura has been with a different but it kind of just resonated with me this episode that that makes sense. That's what she's like, doing her rotations, and instead of like following, you know, a bridge crew member getting a different crewman every week, we're following a crewman through the process. And that's kind of neat. That's a neat device that they've done this season. And I didn't really notice, honestly, until this episode.
and that in itself is kind of a tragedy. You know what I mean? It's like she's learning how to do all this stuff. She's being put through the rigors, you know? And all
ringer,
of that
right? Put through the ringer.
Rigors.
Is it rigors?
Like rigorous. Yeah.
I've always heard put through the ringer.
I've been through the ringer, but you're put through your rigors.
I
think.
I don't know.
Anyway, she's doing all this stuff, learning all this stuff, all to culminate in at least 5 years of just saying, hailing frequencies open, Captain. And that's sad. It's the tragedy of Uhura. She's going to sit in that chair with that thing hanging out of her ear for several years, and then she's going to do a fan dance in about 30 years after that and make everybody angry.
Yep.
That's it. That's all she gets.
That's all she gets. It is put through the ringer. Just so you know. Yeah, it's put through the ringer.
Riggers.
Yeah, there is no put through the riggers. I searched it. Just doesn't exist.
Riggers. Yeah, it's not right.
Just no big deal.
I mean, hey, I told you.
We learn.
I'm a dullard.
You used that one right.
Dullard.
Just to,
I know.
Just to give you, I'm really, I'm just trying to be supportive by telling you you're 100% correct.
Yeah. About 10 years ago, I looked that word up just to make sure it wasn't an ethnic slur.
Nope.
I'm like, it sounds like a slur for like Dutch people or something. I'm going to go check that out and make sure.
It does have.
No, okay, good.
It does have similar letters. There you go.
I mean,
I didn't know. You never know. You never know. You never know these days. You don't want to get canceled when you find out that you've been saying dullard for years. And
I'm very concerned.
I know. Aren't we all?
Look, we grew up in Alabama. Like half of the shit we say down here, it's like you find out like, oh no, that wasn't right. You shouldn't have said that.
Nope, shouldn't have said that at all. Man, that definitely like starting the podcast over the years. We had a few learning moments for sure where people were like, that is an offensive term. We're like, oh, you didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, I think, and the thing is, generally, people are okay with it if you just are genuinely wrong and you're willing to be like, oh yeah, sorry about that. I won't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Cancellation, I feel like most of the times happens when someone is like intentionally pushing at something that they know they shouldn't do, or they refuse to like just learn and apologize when they realize what they've been doing or whatever was harmful.
Yeah. We feel free to cut this if you want.
Your call.
I don't know
what you're going to say. I'm nervous now.
Yeah. So we grew up in Montgomery. Mm-hmm. And a lot of racist white people refer to it as Monkey Town because there are a lot of black people there. So I had a family member who was always very progressive and said, we're not supposed to hate these people, et cetera, et cetera. And then one day they whip out the term Monkey Town very casually. And we're like, what are you talking about? This is racist. And they were like, no, it's not. My father used to say he was coming back to Monkey Town because he called us his little monkeys. And we had to like break it to them. No, your father was a racist. And you've been saying that around people for years.
Oh, gosh.
And they were very upset. They didn't fight it. It wasn't like a Randall from Clerks 2, I'm taking it back situation.
Right. Like, they were just like, wow.
Oh, shit. I'm in my 40s. I shouldn't have been saying that.
I've never used that term. I've heard that term.
Uh-huh.
I never knew the implications.
Really?
Yeah, just didn't. I didn't. I've heard people say, because it's Montgomery, like it just sounds kind of similar, which is why it works and why people use it as a pejorative or whatever. I've heard it over the years. I don't even know who I've heard it from, but I lived there. Heard people say
just hear it.
Never understood the implication of that.
Yeah. So luckily, I had enough racist people in my life that I knew exactly what it meant.
Oh, well, that's good. At least you had an education.
This person in my life did not.
Yeah.
It's like, you've surrounded yourself with good people, and this is what's happened.
Sometimes you need a bad person in your life here and there.
You need a couple of bad apples, a couple rotten.
You know what they say? Couple rotten apples enhances the whole bunch. That's what they say, right?
Well, you know where the worms are. That's the
thing. You learn to recognize a worm-ridden soul.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's inappropriate to put on air.
I don't know. I probably.
I have no idea.
I don't think it's like a racial slur. It's just a word people said used in a bad way. So I think you're okay. Yeah. If people are very offended,
that, offends you.
Yeah. I don't think your story is offensive. Obviously, the term is offensive. No. I now know.
Yeah, no, you need to know.
I mean, maybe there was just like a sense that it was offensive.
Right.
Without, You
have gigs. You go down to Montgomery enough. You don't need to, just think, oh, that's a funny term for it.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
We do have a thing from Stu.
Yeah, Stu, hope you made it.
If you want to talk about that.
Hope you made it through the discussion of the racial term for Montgomery.
All right, so I apologize, Stu. I have not read this yet. Like 2 seconds before Matt called me or messaged me, I was like, oh shit, I didn't check and see if Stu had, and then I just copied and pasted. So.
I love that you're like, check if Stu had, instead of like, see if we had any feedback.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
No, it was Stu. Like, it's always Stu.
I love it.
Like, it's always Stu.
I'm
good with that.
We've had a few other people lately, but Stu's always, Stu's the tried and true fellow.
Yeah, Timothy.
Yeah.
Missed you this week, Timothy.
Yeah. Indeed.
Shame, guilt.
And that goes for everyone else too, not just Timothy.
Yeah.
Stu is the only righteous child.
Okay, I was targeting Timothy. I'll be honest.
Stu is the first servant.
You will ascend.
Let's let Stu ascend. Read his feedback.
Yeah. Subject line: make sure your partner is not okay with child sacrifice. Stu says, sorry, I got this, like, and he writes, this episode was good, with a nice idea, and continue some character-based subplots, as well as show us Pike's more romantic side. It just felt a little understated overall in how it approached what was going on. The big reveal is pretty horrifying, but Pike's reaction made him seem like he wasn't really mad at Allura, just disappointed. It'd be like if Charlton Heston's reaction at the end of Soylent Green was, ew. Or if Charlton Heston's reaction at the end of Planet of the Apes was, oh, right. Now I get it. Man, I'm dumb. Or if Charlton Heston and Ben-Hur was like, you're all right, Jesus. Other thoughts. That was well done, Stu.
It was well done, Stu. I liked it a lot.
Other thoughts. Pike's hair is back at full power this week. The fight at the beginning made me think we were getting a pack-led origin story. I didn't think about that. That's good. 2 episodes in a row where La'an's approach to work is used for comedy. Do you think there was a decision to lighten the character up a bit after the previous episode showed her in a more serious and angsty way? Probably. They probably went, we're going a little hard on her right now. Let's pull back. He says, I came up with a joke based off of Mbinga's plot this episode. David, you can do this one with Matt's participation. All right. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting transporter system.
Interrupting transporter.
All right. I wonder if this episode, this was the episode Jonathan Frakes was originally going to direct. He's worked with Lindy Booth when he helmed episodes of The Librarians, or maybe it's just because the plot felt kind of Riker-ish. I didn't get Riker off of this, but
I can see it.
Maybe the sex.
Oh yeah. Maybe there's that. There's the sex. There's the just like going down to this sort of reminds me of that episode where he goes down and like runs around the planet with all the I don't know, people in little bitty baby togas.
Baby togas. Nope, I think it's just because he scuttled her butt, you know what I mean? Anyway. Pike's annoyance that he had to interrupt his banging session to go back to the ship for a briefing. Nice. Clearly, I liked that one too. I guess the fact they tried to find alternatives for centuries but never decided to just move to another planet is some sort of commentary on society valuing convenience over sacrifice. The way their society's development was based off of the first servant wasn't explained in a lot of detail, so it was a bit unclear. I agree. I really want to know why this kid's brain is what powers their whole society. Like,
yeah, like what is it actually doing?
Yeah, I needed Geordi in a briefing room spouting off some technobabble, so I'm like, oh,
right, yeah. I mean,
feel like I know.
Yeah, you kind of get it, like,
yeah,
the idea, and that's all that they wanted, because they wanted to shock us at the end, you know?
Yeah, I have been simultaneously impressed and reviled by how much new Star Trek has eschewed technobabble. Because they used it as a crutch on TNG, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And on Voyager.
I never mind technobabble, and I think I even I learned a lot from technobabble as a kid, even when it's utter nonsense. Like the concepts, sometimes they're like, you just start to get concepts. Like you understand kind of what quantum means because of how they use it in certain contexts. When you're 6, you're like, oh, that's kind of quantum means this sort of shifting thing that I kind of get it. And then you sort of get these concepts. I like that aspect of Star Trek. As a kid, I think I learned a lot from Star Trek. But what TNG does that drives me nuts is they will solve a plot with nothing but technobabble. Yeah. That is where it is not okay. Like, you can tell us what your options are using technobabble, but then you have to make a choice. You can't just, oh no, we have to solve it. I'm going to say a thing that means nothing, and then the plot is solved. And that happens all the time on TNG.
Yeah, it's like Data will throw out some like long thing, or like Geordi will say a long thing, and then Data will say a long thing, and he goes, Data, you're a genius. It's just like blowing up a balloon and rubbing it on somebody's hair. The friction will keep the ship intact. What the hell are you talking about?
That's more than they get a lot of times. A lot of times it's like they're beating us. We're about to explode. What if I reverse the polarity on the ion beams? Do it. And then it'll give us a chance, and then they win. You know, it's just like I hate that. It's like my least favorite thing about Star Trek.
I do too. So there's like an element to it where I'm just like, yes, I like technobabble, but then like there's way too much technobabble. Like I just want just enough to like feel like there's some like actual science happening rather than like. But I'm a dullard, as I said, so I don't need it to be real science. I just need it to sound good.
Yeah. You gotta sound like you're believe in science, service, and sacrifice. You know, that's all you really need.
And that's one of the things that drives me nuts about a lot of Star Trek fans is they're like, this is supposed to be hard science fiction. I'm like, it was never hard science fiction. None of that shit means anything most of the time.
Right.
I'm sorry. Like I don't know how many times they've said, you know, like Millicochranes. That is a made-up term. That is named after Zefram Cochrane, a fictional character. That's not real. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see. So why didn't Wesley Crusher show up to recruit this special child? Was it jealousy that one was far more special and much less annoying than he was? I really do. I'm sad for that kid. You know what my headcanon is? Fixed point in time, Stu. Wesley can't do anything. It's just like the Doctor. Sometimes on Doctor Who, he can't do the thing because fixed point in time. And then when he does, shit like, you know, the Peter Capaldi's character in Torchwood happens, and then his family bites it because time is fixing itself, and he has to like kill himself and his whole family because they weren't supposed to live.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
That was like, I don't think they ever explicitly said that. But that was a thing that like Russell T Davies said is like Peter Capaldi's family was supposed to die in the fires of Pompeii on Doctor Who.
Right.
So like later on Torchwood, he played a bad guy who winds up killing himself and his whole family. And they were descendants of that Pompeii family. And it was like the timeline correcting itself because the Doctor like went against the fixed point in time and saved them.
Wow. Interesting.
Right?
That's cool. I
love that.
I dig that a lot. It sounds like maybe a little bit of headcanon, but it comes from the guys writing it. So, you know, that's kind of headcanon.
Yep. That's what I dig.
Yeah. Is that all Stu had to say?
That's all. He said, take care.
That was wonderful feedback. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it.
It was very fun.
That was delightful.
Very fun.
You write more jokes in your shit, man. It did good.
Enhance our podcast with humor, man. Come on.
Not the knock necessarily, but you had some clever bits in there.
Oh yeah. No, Stu's always funny.
Not always. Sometimes he's just petulant.
There's almost always a good subject line in there.
Yeah.
The
subject lines are gold.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, guys,
Gornhub. Yeah, shot us up to the top 10.
Yep, Gornhub's
in time podcasts. Mm-hmm. Like we went viral over Gornhub.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you listening to Star Trek Universe. We'll be back soon, really soon, hopefully, because this. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this week either. I may have to do it early next week. I know. My Alyssa's grandmother passed away. So we have a funeral on Saturday, and she's coming into town Thursday and flying in, and I got to drive her to Huntsville and like bounce around the state to play in Montgomery, and then go back to Huntsville. It's going to be a whole thing. So I don't know if I think I can squeeze it in at some point though before the weekend, because it always hits the weekend, and then I just can't do anything till Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
Well, I don't know. I think we're recording it next week, but we are recording 2 episodes. I assume without you, but you can join us absolutely if you want, if you can. Me and my sister-in-law, Christiana, are going to do a couple of episodes. She has now watched all of the original series and the animated series. She's a newcomer to Star Trek. She's got thoughts. I want to hear her thoughts, and I've got questions. And I thought it would be interesting to get an interview with someone who is new to Star Trek and get their take on the original series and the animated series.
Absolutely. So, what did she start there? Has she done anything else? Yeah. Okay. No, okay. So she started at the beginning. Cool.
I believe that
is very interesting to see someone of a younger generation getting into that.
Yeah.
That's barely younger.
Like 29. But yeah.
That's so much younger than me.
I'm trying to help us.
Nope.
We're so old.
We're very beyond help, my friend.
We can still lie. This is audio.
Just throw me in a little chair and put little probes in my head. Stick a probe in my head, I'm done.
1 beep for yes, 2 beeps for no. That's how Matt will be podcasting. It's like Stranded Panda in like 2 years. We'll be like, so Matt, what did you think of the new season of Miss Marvel? Boop, boop.
Somebody give me some fan art with a panda in that chair.
Yeah.
That's my future.
Boop. 1 beep for yes. I agree.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back soon. Peace. Jean True.
Live long, prosper, and have strange gymnastic sex on Talos 4. In your head.
In my mind.
In my mind. I almost said it, and I was like, no, that doesn't relate, but it does. I knew it.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.